All right. What's up, y'all? Stimmy, y'all. Stimmy, yeah. Stimmy, yeah. Stimmy. You know what I'm saying? Y'all, you probably don't know where that from, do you? You know, you're not a hip hop head like myself. Right.
I don't know, bro.
You know, Brooklyn Zoo,
Brooklyn
ODB.
and that ODB, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Wu-Tang Clan. I know
Wu-Tang.
everybody heard of Wu-Tang.
Of course.
All right. Shimmy, stimmy. So, well, I'm gonna say what I mean. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Um, get back to being professional. You know, I got like a semi turtleneck on, so let me act like it right now. All right. So the last few weeks we've been talking about the stimulus bill. We have broke it down every which way, but today we get to talk to y'all because it is officially passed. No more speculation about what's going to be in it. We know now. We know exactly what's in it. And just for the audience, if y'all ever curious what the proposals are or what's in a bill, you can just go to congress.gov. You know, instead of relying on everybody else, still tune into this channel because we're going to break it down politically and tell you what it means, what's coming up. But if you're ever curious, you could just go right to congress.gov, you know, and they'll give you every provision that's in the bill. So with it, how do you feel about the package overall? The name suck of it, by the way. The official
American
name of
Rescue Plan.
the the American Recovery Plan. I think it is.
Rescue Plan Act of
Okay, yeah. American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. That's the official
2021.
name. Yeah.
Yep.
What a garbage name. But
Exactly.
but forget the name. What do you think about the bill overall?
Yeah, I think it's it's for the needs. It's like average, right? Because everything expires in 1 year, right? The major provisions, right? Like the child tax credit, which is great. If it was permanent, I'd be like, yo, that'd be huge, right?
Mhm.
You got relief for obviously the 2000 well the $1,400 checks. I was gonna say $2,000 checks, but the $1,400 checks, right? So that's another big thing. Obviously, that's one time. The unemployment boost obviously is going on for the next, guess what, 5.5 months till the first week of September, right? And that's $300 plus up on top of your state unemployment. So that'll help a lot of people. I mean, the crazy thing is we still are having like 800,000 people filing new claims for unemployment right now, which is wild to me. So that was definitely needed. But the fact that it's going to expire after August when Congress goes on recess, pretty bad idea. The original proposal, $400 plus up, expiring at the end of September was a better move. But unfortunately, Joe Manchin, as we know, and if people tuning in don't know, he kind of caused a last minute hubbub on that Friday when they were voting on the minimum wage to be included. That failed, but that vote was open for about 10 hours because Joe Manchin didn't want the unemployment boost to be $400, and he wanted it to, end at a certain time. He was going to sign on to Senator Rob Portman's proposal that would have cut it to July. And Senator Rob Portman's a Republican senator from Ohio. But then, that got resolved late Friday night. And then they had Manchin, supported the existing Democratic proposal with the caveat of it ending a week later, but putting the $300 less, $300 top up, not the $400. And then you also had tax forgiveness for people who are getting unemployment insurance, UI. That's big. That'll probably save people, at least $1,000 when they're filing their taxes right now. And Manchin means tested that too. If you're making under $150,000, which is, I mean, that's most people. But if you did make a lot of money in 2019 and you're out on your luck last year, then you're going to get pretty screwed. Let's see. And then Also, the Affordable Care Act. The Republicans are not talking about it that much, which is kind of surprising to me. But again, another good provision, but it only lasts 2 years, and that's the provision that increased the subsidies for buying insurance on the Affordable Care Act exchanges. So they've
Right. It
said,
also, yeah,
yeah,
that same provision, it also increased funding to the CHIP program, the Child
mhm,
Health Insurance Program as well.
yep, mhm,
Um, it also have some provisions to support some stuff in Medicaid. So
mhm,
there is some stuff in there with Medico. There's also the Cobra subsidies that's in there too, which I don't really like the Cobra aspect of it because I think Cobra is really expensive. So, I could have did without the Cobra provision in there, but um, overall, the healthcare
yeah.
part of it is pretty good.
Yeah, the Cobra, yeah, I mean, that's just the most inefficient way of keeping people having health care after they lost their job. They just chose the most inefficient way to do it because you can't have these people go on Medicare, right? And they didn't federalize Medicaid, so you can't put
Right.
them on Medicaid. So, yeah, so that's another thing that obviously is temporary. It's like 6 months or 7 months or something like that.
Right.
But, but I mean, it is significant. Though I think a lot of people don't. I mean, I don't think a lot of people will use Cobra, but it is significant that the government's going to be basically paying the
Yeah.
tab. I don't know how it would work logistically. I guess
Cobra is usually too expensive for most people
it's too
to
expensive.
afford,
Yeah, yeah,
especially if you just lost your job. I don't
right,
know how you would even be able to afford the premiums of Cobra if you lost your job, unless you just have a decent amount of money saved up,
right.
or
You're
maybe
right,
you have a spouse where they was on your health insurance. I don't know, but it'll be difficult to pay for Cobra out of your own
right.
pocket.
It's
Yeah.
very difficult. Yeah, it's very difficult. Um, yeah, and yeah. So the subsidies. The other thing with the subsidies on the Affordable Care Act is, I believe it caps, I guess 8% or 8.5% of your income can go to the premiums. It looks like that was part of the provision as well. The
Yeah.
only the only thing that people are pointing out is this is great. This should have been done obviously 10 years ago, but
Right.
um, the other thing is those plans on the exchanges obviously have high deductibles, so they didn't do anything
Right.
about that. So
And I guess like I think you was just mentioning it. Yeah. The premium is supposed to be capped at 8.5% of a person's salary. That was a campaign promise that Biden did make. That was a part of his original healthcare proposal during the campaign. Maybe you can help me out with this though. Before I do that, let me answer a comment. Um, what up? What up, Lens? How you feeling? She said she thought Cobra was only for active military members. That's no, you confusing that with TRICARE.
TRICARE.
TRICARE is for active duty militaries. Also, military members that's in the reserve. You have TRICARE Select Reserve that for members of the National Guard and Reserves. You also have, I think, a TRICARE program for retirees as well. So,
Hmm.
yeah, TRICARE is associated with the military. Cobra is for when you lost your, if somebody lost their job, they still can have access to healthcare through Cobra, basically.
Hmm. Right.
But back to the 8.5% of the salary, which is cool. I would like to be a little bit less, but I'll take that. That's a decent proposal right there. Didn't mention, I couldn't find it. It doesn't mention anything about deductibles, does it?
No, I didn't see
I,
anything.
I think the deductibles will still be there. So I think that just for the premium. So my concern with that, and we have to see what happens, is that okay, the premiums will be 8.5, but they can make that up with deductibles. So that's something we have to watch out for. And I think that could be a little loophole.
Right, right, right. That's actually a good point. Very good point.
Right.
Um, Yeah, so if those subsidies were made permanent, you would be nearly halfway there with fixing the Affordable Care Act and its implementation, I think. Um, but we'll see what well, I mean, and also in terms of Medicaid, they didn't federalize Medicaid, but they basically are begging Republican governors to expand Medicaid in their state. They're not, the federal government now is basically saying, we're not going to just pay 100% of the Medicare costs during the first, I guess, 2 years or something like that when you expand it. They're saying we're going to give you 105%. We're going to be basically giving you money on top of that money to do it. But of course, all of the Republican governors so far have said they ain't doing that. So,
Of course.
so, so basically, all that money is going to be out
Surprise,
there.
right?
Surprise, surprise. So there, I mean, with all these stories that you're seeing of the work requirements or people, losing, unemployment insurance, those are the two things that I think at some point the Democrats, while they have power, should probably federalize, because it is just crazy how there's such gaps in the country. Obviously, we're a big country; it's 50 states and all that shit. But it's again pretty ridiculous, just of how brazen the Republicans are on
Yeah.
these obviously very popular things.
What I would like to see, and overall, I would have voted for the bill as well. Um, Even though the strategy to get some provisions in there, um, I think could have been better. To be honest, I would love to see baby bonds in there and have more of a fight to put it in there.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody talk about the $15 minimum wage.
Yeah, that's taking all the oxygen.
Right. But another thing, I think we talked about this before. I think progressives in Congress missed the opportunity to push for a public option, because if you spending money on take a look at all the money towards healthcare, whether it's for Medicaid, whether it's for CHIP, whether it's for COBRA.
Right.
I would have loved to see analysis of how much that would cost, and contrast that with doing a public option.
Right.
Especially since Biden ran on a public option, and that would have been a prime opportunity to put pressure on him. Is this Medicare for all? Is it single payer? No, but that's a step closer. Also, even if you couldn't get it in the specific bill, you would have had it as a talking point, and you would have brought it up to the public. It seemed like people forgot about the public option completely.
Yeah, for sure.
And we talked about it right now. I think I credit Cory Booker. I credit Ayanna Pressley with baby bonds. But just to get more support for it, I think they had to be out on, mainstream media a little bit more discussing the proposal. It's good to do Instagram lives on it, because they did do Instagram lives and talking amongst themselves, but that's not going to get the job done, because most progressives not even talking about those proposals. So,
right.
And my fear is, because Ayanna Pressley got a great bill she introduced in the House about getting rid of qualified immunity. And that's something I've been talking about a long time when it comes to police officers. For those of you who don't know what qualified immunity is, it basically the reason why most of these police officers get away with the killing of unarmed Black people, along with white supremacy, of course. But legally, that's what they justify it with, is qualified immunity. Basically state, if a police officer feared in danger, no matter what their action, they basically perceive the danger, so therefore you can acquit them. We need to get rid of that. Now, does that guarantee that these police officers will automatically go to jail? No, because we still live in a system where racism is at the highest level. But that'll take away one excuse. And I think that would go a long way right there. So we definitely need to get rid of qualified immunity. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I'm tying it back to that, she had that bill out. I'm concerned with the messaging. And if we really want to get that passed, because I really want that passed, she can't use the same strategy she used with baby bonds. And I don't mean this as a crazy criticism of her, because I have massive respect for her. She's one of the best Congress people in office right now.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as progressives as a whole, this goes for her. This goes for Bernie Sanders. This goes for Elizabeth Warren. This goes for even AOC, although I think messaging sometimes progressives have a major issue with. But beyond that, the bill will do a lot of good. Politically, it's very popular right now. I think I've seen a poll. Like 62% popularity, or even more.
Yeah, probably more now. And Biden and Harris are, they're about to hit the road. Or they're probably. I think Harris, she already went to Nevada,
right?
So they're going to be going all over the place, selling it.
Yep.
Obviously, there's a lot. They don't really have to do a lot to sell it. I mean, because people already know how popular, like people are going to have
other parts of the bill.
Other parts of it besides the checks, right?
People
the checks, people understand the checks.
Excited about the checks.
Yeah, people are excited about that. There's memes. There's people on TikTok, people on Twitter, IG making crazy stuff. Like that right there. That right there is obviously you don't have to sell it. You just gotta say, hey, we delivered that, right? But the other stuff, they gotta go out there and say, hey, your restaurant, we got $30 billion in here, right? You're a black farmer. We got a whole fund right here in this bill that's going to take away your debts, right?
Yep.
So I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there, a lot of stuff.
I've been the one talking about the Black Farmers Bill. We still need to sign that. Matter of fact,
that still has to go. Yeah.
But you're right. There is provisions in there for agriculture, for Black farmers. Also, there's provisions for nutrition programs, for SNAP. So yeah.
I mean, you got Lindsey.
For Black farmers, so that's a good thing, because
you got Lindsey Graham on Fox saying this is reparations and this is terrible and all this. I was like, what the hell?
And that's what they need to sell to, because a lot of Black people, including myself, to a certain extent, do not feel the Democrats have done enough for Black people, especially for the support that we have given them. So they need to highlight that, because most people going to say, okay, specifically, what have you done for Black people? And is this enough? Hell no, it's not enough. But it's a start. It's a start. Sure. Highlight this. That's one of the provisions they need to sell. They finally starting to sell the child tax credit. Me and you've been on this program how many times talking about the child tax credit?
We were talking about this. We were talking about this in January. I mean, before Biden, even had his plan. Even before Romney had his joint out. So.
That should have been talked about as much as the stimulus checks itself,
for sure,
relief checks, because a lot of people's going to get some money out of it, and believe it or not, there's people that's going to get a lot of money this summer that don't even know that they're going to get it.
They don't even know. That's what's crazy about it. Like you're gonna the IRS is gonna be doing these monthly. Like the bill said periodically, but in implementation wise, it'll be monthly, starting in July. And yeah, people they definitely are not prepared for that coming. It's gonna hit them pretty unexpectedly, surprisingly, positively, obviously, but. That's going to be a big thing going into the end of this year.
$3,600.
$3,600. I mean, per kid.
Per kid, but I think it maxes out at 2 kids. I think you can't get no more than $7,200.
I believe so.
Yeah, so it maxes out at 2 kids, but that's going to be an unexpected check. And the concern is you got to make sure people know it's from the Democrats, right? If the Democrats want to, because it's going to be a struggle to keep Congress. These are type of things you have to sell. You have to go out and just be like, we did this. As much of a bad move, it held up the checks. But when Trump made sure his name was on the check,
right?
What he was doing is making sure people associated him with the relief. You shouldn't go that far, because getting this out quickly was the right thing to do.
Right.
But you have to go out and sell it. And I'm glad they're going out in the road. Hopefully they sell that part of the provision, the Black Farmers Bill we was talking about. They have emergency rental assistance, home owners assistance too, because that's a big thing too.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people we was talking about before with landlords.
Yeah.
But they have homeowners assistance in this too. What we have to do though is make sure the implementation is right, because with the PPP funds, there was money allocated, but it didn't get to the people it needs to.
Right, and it was going to big chains. It was going to, I mean, the Lakers got a PPP loan. I mean, Tom Brady got a PPP loan. I mean, just wild stuff. I mean, and I don't if you make something like that available, make it universal. It should not be a free for all, in my opinion. If you're going to dole out hundreds of billions of dollars, don't even put a cap on it. Just be like, you're the government. We're going to do what we need to do to keep your people on the payroll. Tap into us. We're going to be doing it throughout the pandemic. We don't give a damn how much it's going to cost. But unfortunately, at that time, unfortunately, Congress in general, they don't want to, they don't want to have blank checks and all this other bull crap. But that's basically what the approach should have been. I mean, obviously Europe, they, and I guess in Canada too a little bit, but in Europe, they were basically subsidizing wages for workers at a certain percentage, right? We could have did that here. I mean, the IRS has the data of most businesses in the country, but obviously, our systems are so hollowed out and so, starved of resources and people, and our federal workforce is so, so small to where it should be. There's so obviously, that's Reaganism, 40 years of that. That paradigm.
Government.
It's a big, even still, we still have a big government, but we really need, because only 3% of the U.S. population works for the federal government.
Right.
So I mean, it should easily be 6, 7, 8%.
A lot of propaganda. Answer a few of the questions from the chat. We have, do you think the stimulus bill, is there a way of saying these are reparations for Black people? You want to answer that?
Sure, yeah. I mean, do you think this is so? Is it the Republicans saying this is reparations, or is it?
I think she posing the question in general. I don't think nobody is officially saying that.
Or the Democrats saying that when they go back on the road and tell it.
Right, is.
So I think it's definitely not any type of reparations. Obviously, the stuff for Black farmers in there is really good. It's overdue, long overdue. I mean, you saw
go far enough either.
Doesn't go far enough, but you saw Trump in the last year and a half was using the Commodity Corporation fund. That's a Great Depression program that was part of the New Deal. He was using that to bail out farmers all over the country because of the trade war. But obviously, you look at the data, it was going to big corporate farmers, right? Not family farmers. So the little guys, doesn't matter. They were all not getting a dime of that. But in terms of from the Republican perspective, they're going to spin it and say, oh, this is the first step to reparations. Lindsey Graham's already saying it. A couple of other senators have been saying some crazy shit on Fox News. So you'll see them start to talk about that. And Senator Warnock, Reverend Warnock, he was a big part of getting this provision in this bill, apparently. And obviously he had to, he had to put on for, the rural Black folk in Georgia who came out. They came out in record numbers to vote for him and John Ossoff, more so for him, but he was able to turn them out big time. On the Democratic side, I don't think they will make that case. I don't think they're that.
I can tell you right now, they're not making that case because they are discussing probably not the reparations in the way we would like to discuss reparations, but But there's an article in the Atlanta Black Star, which is a great site for Black news, really legit. They have an article about one of Biden's close advisor, it's a Black man, saying that they don't even need HR 40 to pass. That's the study on reparations bill. He's saying that Biden could do it on his own, basically. And it seems like he's pushing Biden to do that. Will Biden do that? Probably not. In the article, the White House is saying that they support the study and all that, but they stopped short of saying if Congress actually passed reparation bill, will he sign it? They not saying yes or no. So I think Biden is trying to stall on that as long as he can.
Right.
But there is movement, at least discussion wise, when it comes to reparation in Congress. So that's what it is. She also asked what would it take to get HR 40 to pass. Number one, pressure on congressional members that are at least have in districts that have decent Black populations,
right, yeah,
and not signed on to the bill.
Right.
Now, one of the things you can do, you can go on congress.gov. It's official government site. It's a great site to use because this is the official bills. You can see on the site who actually co-signed the bill, what members of Congress co-signed it and which not. So my area, Brian Higgins is the congressman. He's the co-signer of that bill. So one of the things we could do, we can pressure them and make it known that we want this bill signed. That's one of the ways you can do it.
And I don't think HR 40 was introduced yet in this Congress, but it was introduced in the last Congress. And so there was about 170 co-sponsors to that bill. So obviously you need 218 to get to a majority. Obviously some Democrats lost about 10 seats in the election last year in the House. So they have a very tight majority right now, even tighter because of the cabinet level appointments that just were confirmed. Congresswoman Deb Haaland, she's now Secretary of Interior. You got Congresswoman Marcia Fudge, she's now Secretary of Housing. Cedric Richmond from Louisiana, he's now in the Biden White House. That's 3 seats that are vacant right now. So the Democrats have a very razor-thin majority right now.
Also, to be honest, even if it passed the House,
then you got the Senate.
You have to go to the Senate, and we're going to get into filibuster reform. But even without the filibuster, is somebody like Joe Manchin going to support? But they got an equivalent bill in the Senate to HR 40.
They do, yeah, they do.
So I'm not sure if it would pass the Senate. The best action would be for the executive branch, because all HR 40 really is a commission.
It's a commission which the executive branch can appoint. Yeah, of course.
The executive branch can do that on their own. Now, it's more difficult to do that because it's easier to get in touch with your local representative than it is to get in touch with the White House,
right?
At our level, especially if you're not part of a major group. But if you are part of organizations, it might be some maneuvers that they have, but it definitely need to be a strategy because I don't think it's going to pass the Senate. It really have a hard time passing the House at this point, even though it's just a study.
Yeah.
So
about 173 co-sponsors in the House is a pretty good start on that bill, even though it is just a commission. So yeah, I see the question in the chat about is there something citizens can do? Yeah, obviously get organized with groups. The main thing with how things get moved in Congress, just like from my vantage point being like around Congress as an intern and things like that, it's always groups. They always get together. They have their core lawmakers that are then they were able to branch out and then get to other lawmakers. So that's how, if you want to talk about how big things have gotten done that are not in a crisis, let's say, I'm trying to think of like significant legislation, like on the opposite end, like say the tax cuts the Republicans do, right? Like they always have, I mean, they have very powerful interest groups, right? Like, but in terms of like things that you want like grassroots stuff to happen, um, look at even like with even something that hasn't passed yet, like Medicare for all, for example. Like it has 120 co-sponsors in the House, right? Which is a lot for a bill that that hasn't passed yet and doesn't have a chance of passing. But you have groups like the nurses, you have groups like you got some doctor groups, you got some labor groups, you got to have groups like that in your corner, and you have to have them all unified on that goal. With reparations, you obviously you got black groups that have been pushing for it for years, and you also have those groups making alliances with more traditional like they might be making headways with a union, right, or some other group that's not even like you wouldn't think of them as part of reparations, but they've allied themselves with it. I don't have specific names, but that's like kind of like what I've seen. Just like when
Right.
when ADOS is like was trending, right? You
Yeah.
got people. It's not even. It's like you got people of all different stripes. But the issue is you got to all be on like the same straight page regarding the strategy. And I think that's the
Right.
problem on the left, because on the left that gets so lost in translation because everybody just wants the quick wins. Everybody wants the microwave version of
Would
stuff,
they say the left eats their own?
and the left eats its own. The left
Mm,
eats its own. That's a problem.
mm,
So staying unified, people use it as a talking point, but it's hard because when you do have different groups trying to all coalesce, it's hard to keep everybody together,
And then
especially
some of these
when
groups,
victory is not in sight.
right? And some of these groups want the credit. I don't even know is it actually about the policy itself. It's a lot of self-interest going on with a lot of these. You see that
Yeah.
not just with reparations, you see that with Medicare for all, or
Right.
with all these. One more question to answer. This is an important one right here. Do you automatically get the 3,600, or do you have to be working? No, you automatically get it.
You automatically get it.
It is means tested now. So if you making, I believe, over what's the cutoff point?
I for the married couple, I think it's 150 grand.
I think it's 150, and I think it's a 75 for. I think it starts to phase down after 75
For an individual, yeah. But I believe but if you have kids, you would be filing. If you're single and you have kids, I think you'd be filing as head of household. So I think that cutoff is like 110, maybe something like that.
Right.
I don't know the exact, but it's somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yep, the full cutoff. And I think the way it works is that some people get 36, but if you on the tail end of that cutoff point, I think it dropped down to 250 instead of $300 if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, most people would get it. So most people definitely would get the child's tax credit unless you again, if you're a married couple over 150, or if you a single person, I think start phase out after 75, I'm not mistaken. But most people will be able to get that child's tax credit. And again, if you have more than one kid, if you have multiple kids, it's 7,200. So that's tangible. Let me ask you this, because the Dems is actually being smart this time. I do gotta give them credit for that. One thing that baffled me, they see how popular this is, but you still have some of those moderate Dems wanting to lessen the check. Like, could you imagine? They happy with the 1,400. You actually would have gave them the 2,000. Could you imagine how happy people would be? But
oh man,
that it is what it is with that. But because people are actually going to get some tangible stuff, people actually get money in their pocket, not only these relief checks, but with the child tax credit and some of this healthcare reform. Do you think it's possible for the Dems to buck the trend when it comes to congressional election after you win the presidency? So could the Dems break the cycle in 2022 and maybe actually retain the House and gain in the Senate because people actually get intangibles and not one this bill is popular, not one Republican voted for it.
So it's possible. I mean, in recent history, the only midterm we can go back to that the president's party didn't lose seats in both houses and actually either held serve or gained seats was the 2002 midterms. And that was a year after 9/11. George W. Bush was very popular.
Yeah, that's when he had like a 90% approval rating, I think.
Right after 9/11, he had a 90%. He was still high. He was like in the 60s and, and whatnot throughout 2002. Unfortunately, obviously, he used that popularity to sell us to a lie on a war in Iraq and whatnot. But, with the Republicans back then, they were smart because what they did was, obviously they had the rally around the flag effect, right? Because of 9/11. They showed strength by going into Afghanistan, right, to go after the Taliban, and obviously we're still there, haha. And then obviously that was quote unquote successful military operation throughout 2002. So they had the wind at their back, right? And the economy also after 9/11, people kind of forget we did have a recession, right? And the economy was recovering in 2002, obviously because real estate, all the things that came during the Bush years that drove growth was mainly in that sector and the service industry and whatnot. So they had and the other thing is the Republicans sold the shit out of stuff like the Patriot Act. They sold the shit out of obviously the war in Afghanistan. The propaganda was crazy. Just like I was like 12 years old back then, but that time they were all over the place communications wise. I think with the Democrats right now, with Biden, obviously you have a national crisis with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Vaccines are going to people's arms, right? I think by the summer, by the fall, you're going to have most of the country. You'll probably have 60% of the country vaccinated, right? With both doses. Everybody should have that. You'll still have maybe 35 to 40% of the people who still haven't gotten it. But we'll be closer to herd immunity. And the economy will recover. It's going to recover this year. It's going to be pretty robust growth going into next year. So he's going to have the wind at his back, right? And he might have another win with infrastructure bill. Who knows? Maybe they pass something. They're going to pass them. They're going to have another reconciliation bill, probably.
Yeah.
So
they're going to have to really.
They're going to have to do more. Mm-hmm. And I don't know whatever else that they can pass with the current rules. I mean, we'll get into that in a moment. But it is possible. It's weird because the Republicans in states that they control, like Texas and Florida, Georgia, Ohio, I mean, you name it, they have the trifecta. They can gerrymander the shit out of those states. So the Democrats they'll lose seats before redistricting even starts. But the Democrats conversely can do the same thing in the states that they control. I'm thinking of places like Illinois and Maryland and California. But actually California and New York, I think they have commissions. So
right, but the Dems, you got to remember though too. I think it all depends on whether the Dems.
Oh, I'm forgetting a big thing. Yes, yes, the HR one. So that if they pass that before the fourth quarter of this year. So I'm saying before September. If they pass it this summer, that requires doing something with the filibuster. Then the Democrats will have a much better chance at keeping the House. It's going to be tough, but they won't start off with a disadvantage right off the gate, right?
I think they might get that done. I don't know if they going to fully repeal the filibuster like they should.
Mhm.
Um, Manchin already done said several times, and he reiterated that he
Well,
never will get rid of the filibuster, but he said he's open to filibuster reform.
the talking filibuster.
My question with that is, even if you
Yeah.
do the talking filibuster, are they still required 60 votes though?
So if they did that, I don't think if they did that, I don't think you would need 60 votes. I think you would need 51 to end debate.
Okay.
So you would need 51 to end debate, and then you vote on the bill, and then the bill passes with a majority vote. Um, that's what that's how it was before. Right now, you need 60 to end debate,
Right.
right? So if they reformed it to you need 51 to end debate, you just pass the bill after that.
Mhm.
Then you have the talking filibuster. Then the Republicans have to hold the floor. They have to
Right.
keep talking. And if they are not as lazy as I think they are, then one or two of them will be able to hold up the floor for a few days, a week. I don't know, but I don't think they would be able to. I don't think they would have the stomach to be on rotation to hold the floor for a month and hold up a bill for 2 or 3 months. I don't think they would have the stamina to do it. I don't think they do. Um, but honestly, let them do it. Like that. That would be a political winner if you're going to have them do it. But the problem is the Democrats don't have a lot of time. So yeah, if they
They need
do
to
that,
get they need
you
to
know,
get HR1 passed this year.
they have to. They have to. If
Yeah.
they do that, then their chances of keeping the House go up. Now the Senate, that's an interesting question because if you look at the map, it's not bad for the Democrats. It's not bad at all. I mean, if you look at it, what states are they really very vulnerable in? I would say Reverend Warnock in Georgia, maybe, but he's very popular. Senator Kelly in Arizona, but he's very popular too. I mean,
Now with Warnock,
yeah,
I think he have a chance to actually win re-election because he is popular. You see, they try to push Herschel Walker
right to run.
against him.
Actually, they're trying to push him to either run for Senate or for governor to
Mhm.
against Kemp.
Right, right.
So it's I don't know but Herschel Walker, I think he lives in Texas right now. I don't think he lives in Georgia.
Well, that never stopped Republicans before. Remember
No,
Alan Keyes? They got
of
Alan
course, yeah,
Keyes to
that's
run
true.
against
Yeah,
Obama.
in Illinois, right.
Yeah, and he wasn't an Illinois resident. He was a resident of Maryland.
Right, he
But
was a resident of Maryland, right?
yeah, so
Yeah,
that never stopped Republicans before.
that doesn't stop him. But yeah, the Senate is interesting because like if Warnock and Kelly, obviously they have to run for re-election, and they just got there. But and obviously those legislatures are trying to make it harder to vote. But I think they'll be in good shape with the wins at their back. You know what I mean? As long as they can overcome. And Stacey Abrams might run for governor again in Georgia, so that might help juice up turnout and whatnot in Georgia. But you look at the open seats, right? Wisconsin, Ron Johnson doesn't seem like he's going to run again. He keeps saying that his preference is to retire. Hopefully he does. He's terrible. Um,
Pretty much.
and if he is, and if he does, then we'll see who the Democrats put up there. But I think the Democrats, they have a very good state party in Wisconsin. So I think they'll be able to pull that off. That's just my gut feeling. Pennsylvania, Pat Toomey's retiring, and Pat Toomey, he barely won the 2 times that he's won.
Yeah, he
So
would have been vulnerable anyway.
he would have been vulnerable anyway. So I don't know. We'll see who they put up for the Democrats. Obviously, John Fetterman, I think he's the favorite in terms of like winning the primary because he's the only guy running right now. They have a lot of candidates that'll run, but he's the only one who's won statewide. So he is the lieutenant governor. And he's pretty popular. So if he was the one, I mean, I think he has a good shot. And then you have North Carolina again. You got Richard Burr is retiring, who should be in jail, as we all know, because of the insider trading. So that's an open seat. We don't know who's going to run on the Republican side. They're trying to push Lara Trump, Trump's daughter-in-law, to run for that seat. She's from North Carolina. The Democrats, I don't know exactly. I mean, there's a couple people that were rumored to run against freaking Cal Cunningham in the Democratic primary last time, who probably in hindsight should have run. But we'll see who they put up. But those are 3 seats I think the Democrats easily can win.
Yeah, and I'm getting mad all over again. Like I don't know how they blew North Carolina. Such a bad candidate.
70,000 votes, man.
And
70,000 votes.
just think about if the Democratic nominee didn't get caught having an affair right before the election, right?
Bro, like you can't even just stay, stay faithful,
It wasn't even
for the whole campaign.
right. It wasn't even the affair itself. I think people would have got over affair. Look at Bill Clinton. People
Right.
like whatever, right?
Right.
It was the sloppiness of it.
The sloppy,
so,
she was leaking those text messages, had his name all over it. His number was I think she might have leaked his number. I don't know. And also, he disappeared off the campaign trail when the story broke, right?
yeah, he didn't campaign for like a month.
He didn't campaign for that last month.
Yeah.
And some people thought, oh, maybe Biden could drag him through the finish line. No, that didn't happen. The governor of the state, obviously Democrat, he won rather easily, but the ticket splitting was right there. So, it was just a terrible.
He probably drugged the presidential ticket down, to be honest.
He probably did. I mean, it was just terrible. I mean, that one and the one in Maine, the chick that ran against Susan Collins. I mean, just terrible.
How do you lose that election to Susan Collins?
Just terrible. Like how you spend all that money. And Chuck Schumer, he's salty about it because, the way he's been going after Susan Collins right now, it's kind of funny. But I'm like, yo, you had a terrible candidate running against her. Yeah. So the Democrats, they have a pretty good chance of expanding, I think, keeping the Senate and maybe even getting a couple more seats, because New Hampshire, they have Maggie Hassan. She's running for re-election. As long as she don't run against the governor, she's going to easily win. The governor's Republican in New Hampshire. And then Cortez Masto in Nevada, she's probably going to win re-election. The two that are vulnerable is Kelly and Warnock. But I think those guys have proven to me that they know what they're doing in terms of how they campaign. So
yeah, and I don't know. We'll see. I think the Dems is going to be tough, like you said, to keep the
House.
The House.
Yeah.
But it all depends what they do. Like, I'm kind of upset that most of these provisions in the rescue plan is only for a year.
Right. It expires right before the midterms.
Should have been 2 years, because I could see moderate Dems, they like shooting themselves in the foot. Next year, these provisions is popular. Hey, these provisions is popular. Let's do away with them and go to austerity. Let's the budget. And people's going to get mad. But if you do that for next year too, can you imagine running on, okay, we gave you in 2 years, we gave you $7,200 with a child tax credit. If you have multiple kids, we gave you over $1,400, with child tax credit. And that's something like the American people deserve anyways, not just giving free money, because other industrialized countries have child care.
They have child care. They also have child allowances. They have, all of that stuff. And obviously, they give you health care.
Right. So if you run on, okay, we gave you this in the last 2 years, tangibles that you could fill in your pocket, along with, the stuff like what they doing for Black farmers. That's a hell of a campaign you can run on. And then you campaign the fact that not one Republican voted for this.
Right.
You could actually maybe even buck the trend in saying that we doing stuff and was the Republican plan. But my concern is that they're going to get rid of it after a year and not renew it.
Right. Once that happens, you have the problem with the Republicans. You can already see the Republicans pivoting to the border, right? They're talking about immigration, they're talking about the children that are coming here unaccompanied, all this other stuff. They're pivoting towards that, and they're going to keep pivoting. All the cultural issues that you can think of. Last week was Dr. Seuss. It's always about cancel culture. It's about this and that. They're going to keep drumming that. My fear is they have a very effective media apparatus ecosystem, and they are able to, flood Facebook, flood the system with all that shit, and that will probably get their voters to the polls in the midterms. But maybe not. I mean, maybe not, because you have Senator Roger Wicker of Louisiana trying to take credit for the COVID bill, the stimulus bill, and he didn't vote for it, right? He's saying restaurants get this aid. You didn't vote for it. And there's a congresswoman in Miami. She flipped the seat that Dem had. She's also taking credit for the stimulus, and she didn't vote for it. So that's the danger right now. And obviously that's why Biden and Harris and a lot of the other Democrats are going to be selling this, saying that we did this. But you're going to see, but the Republicans know how popular it is. So they're trying to just flood. They're just trying to throw everything at the wall to see what can stick, including taking credit for something they didn't vote for.
They need to. The Dems need to renew those provisions, especially the child tax credit next year. Be able to run on that for sure.
Yeah, Ro Khanna actually had a good idea. I was listening to him on the Tom Hartman show, and he said his priority with the minimum wage and some of these provisions from the House perspective is he wants to put it into the defense bill when the defense bill has to pass, to put it in the NDA later this year. I think that might be a good strategy. We'll see. I don't know.
It could be, because progressives will have more leverage than they do right now, because I understand that, like we just talked about earlier, they should have played it differently, but ultimately some of the people on the left that want them to threaten to withhold the vote, as popular as this bill was, probably wasn't going to be a good strategy.
I don't think that was a good idea. No, I mean, all the good that's in the bill and the urgency of it outweighed that strategy. I know some people on the left were trying to say to do that, but I think with how the economy is, the unemployment cliff that was going to happen yesterday, not a good idea to do that.
What they should have done is be more effective in the media, though, and putting them on blast.
Right.
And like, they don't like to personally attack their colleagues.
No, not at all.
Quote, but that's what it needs to take. Like, I would have had cinema statements in the past about the minimum wage. Keep bringing that up with change. I would have had Poland from West Virginia with Manchin.
Reverend Barber did that. Not Poland, but he had West Virginia workers go straight up to Manchin and be like, "Why don't you want $15?" And then Manchin's like, "Well, it should be 11, and I think it should be 11." Blah blah blah. And then you was putting him on the spot.
Right, and you have to do that in the media, but like, I don't think this was the bill. You could do it with some bills. This wasn't the bill to do that. Yeah. Now the defense bill, because I have no problem actually voting against that bill to begin with.
Right. I don't have a problem voting against it either. But if you want to maybe
if you want my bill with this, add the $15 minimum wage. I think that's a much better strategy.
Plus, 2007, when they passed the last minimum wage hike, it was attached to the defense bill, because the Republicans, or I think at that time, the Democrats had control of the House and the Senate, and Pelosi basically was negotiating with the Republicans on Iraq war funding, right? A lot of progressives got pissed off because they're like, why is she funding the war, right? And so she got, obviously, unanimous, almost unanimous, I don't know, unanimous, might have been unanimous consent or whatever to pass that bill, but she also was able to stick the minimum wage hike in there in 2007. So that was one way that they were able to pass it. Yeah. So with this narrow majority that they have now,
they might be able to do it. The only danger in that is sometimes those defense bills could be bipartisan. So that's the only danger.
Bipartisan, the worst ways, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. Exactly. So we almost to the end of the show. I'm just going to ask you a few few predictions from you, just your gut instinct. So, do you think they will actually get HR 1, the Voting Rights for the People Act, passed this year?
That's a tough one, man.
House
I
and
want to.
Senate.
Huh?
House and Senate.
The House already passed it.
Yeah.
So they passed it already. The House will pass these bills. Now getting it through the Senate, I'm pessimistic. I'm going to be pessimistic. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say the Democrats let this opportunity fall by the wayside. I'm going to say that they don't have they're not able to get Cinema and Manchin on the same page. More so Cinema. Manchin, I think, is movable.
Yeah.
Because Manchin does a lot of
House and Senate too is, yes, the House passed it, but once it goes to the Senate,
it has to go back to yeah. So yeah, to complete that process, I'm gonna say no, unfortunately. Which I'm bad at predictions, so maybe that's a good sign. But I'm gonna say no.
I'm going to say yes because that affects them directly.
It's existential.
Politicians, they very self-serving. So
yeah.
Because of that, I say yes. How about transportation bill?
I'm gonna say they will pass something. I don't know how big it's gonna be, but I think it will be done through reconciliation. I think they might be able to get a couple of Republicans on it. Not the 10 that they need, but I think a couple would vote for it in reconciliation.
And what I meant by transportation, I actually said that wrong. I meant
infrastructure.
Yeah, I said
infrastructure. Yeah, I think they will pass something. I think it's going to be kind of a shit show because Manchin wants tax increases to help pay for it. Some other Democrats are like, no, let's just print money, printer go burr. After deficit, let's just spend this shit. So the Democrats are not united on that like they were with the COVID relief bill. So that's going to be a bit of a shit show. You're going to see Bernie Sanders have his plan. You're going to see him push what he wants to do in the budget committee. But then you'll see Manchin at the energy committee. He's the chairman there, try to protect fossil fuels in some respects and all this. So it's going to be a shit show. But I think they will pass something.
I agree. $15 minimum wage.
I don't think we'll get 15. I think, as we mentioned before, they might try to. I think in the defense bill might be where they try to pass it. It might be something that gets us to like $11 or $12 in the next 2 years. That's what I think might happen. The other thing that might happen, Steny Hoyer, who's my congressman, mentioned that they're going to pass a standalone bill probably in the next few weeks. So I think they will pass a standalone bill and kick it to the Senate. I think there's 60 votes in the Senate to increase the minimum wage, but the problem is, what is it to? And then also the Republicans want to attach, E-Verify and some other immigration shit to it. So I think the minimum wage will be increased. I just don't think it'll be to 15.
Interesting. Okay, qualified immunity bill in the House.
I think the House, will. Yeah, the Senate though. I don't think they'll pass the Senate. Unless they got rid of the filibuster. But again, I don't think it'll pass. What do you think?
Unfortunately, I agree with you. I don't think it's going to pass. I think they have to message better.
They have to message that better. Because like they passed, the George Floyd, the George Floyd Act, a week or two ago, and then I'm like, okay, great. But then you got like Senator Tim Scott talking about it, and he's on like shows and shit. I'm like, come on, you can't let Tim Scott take ownership of this bill to like have a bipartisan win. I'm like, come on, bro. Like, so.
All right. The Blacks Farmers Bill. You think anything gonna get done with that this year?
I think maybe in the next, some elements of it might be part of the next reconciliation bill, maybe.
Okay. And the last one I got for you. Any other provisions in healthcare, like maybe making Medicaid federal, anything with a public option? anything like that this year?
I think
Lowering
maybe.
Medicaid age.
I think Medicaid federalization might be a thing that happens.
Okay.
But and I think it would be a no. If I'm Biden, that's a no-brainer, because you reward the states that already expanded Medicaid, free up some money for them, and then you take away the power of the Republican governors from denying all these hundreds of thousands of people, free public health care. So, yeah, I think that I think that's definitely on the table.
You think they'll actually get it done though this year?
If they're gonna do it again, I think it would have to be in reconciliation.
Okay.
But we'll see. We'll see how things are later this year. But I'm gonna say there's a good chance once there's more Republican like stonewalling.
Yeah. And I must admit, it doesn't happen often, but I think I was wrong about something. I didn't think Biden would have a honeymoon period because he wasn't that popular. He was the person people pick like, all right, he could beat Trump.
Yeah.
I think I was wrong about that. I think
there's no cult of a personality.
Right. I actually think he is having a bit of a honeymoon period, to be honest.
Yeah.
Which is surprising to me, given the fact that the enthusiasm for him wasn't great. But maybe I underestimated how bad people hate Trump. Well, I didn't underestimate that, but I guess some people hate Trump so much that they was like, okay, just back to at least almost normal, good enough.
Right.
So I think he is having a bit of a honeymoon period. So
I mean, the bar was set so low. I mean, you or I could look like an amazing president after what we saw the last 4 years.
Look what they did with Cuomo, and he's a piece of garbage.
Exactly, they elevated Cuomo so much last spring and summer, and just to contrast him with Trump, and just because he was appearing competent at press conferences, like with Biden, at least, look, obviously we don't like the guy, his record, terrible record, but he does recognize what is popular, and he is a bit of a shapeshifter. He's not that ideological in some respects. He is ideological on debt shit, like student loan debt, credit card debt. All those
I didn't
years.
even ask you about that because I think it's over with student loan forgiveness. I don't think it happened now.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen right now. I think the best he's gonna do is just extend the pause on payments. I think that's the best he's gonna probably do. He might extend it the rest of the year after September, but I don't think he's gonna do anything else, which sucks. But I think that's just part of his DNA. He thinks debt is like something that should be used as like, I feel like, as like a punishment, or as like some kind of servitude. But on other stuff, it seems like he's very movable.
Oh yeah.
So progressive groups, the politicians that are in his ear, and I'm talking about Warren, I'm talking about Sanders, like they actually have a good working relationship with him, which is a plus. I don't think if Hillary was president, you would have that kind of synchronous stuff on some issues, right? So we'll see. But
yeah, last question. Very last question. All right, maybe because I forgot already. Long day. I forgot my question. I was going to ask you that quick, right? That's crazy, right? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I think I'm disconnected. Hold on, let me.
Okay.
I can hear you now.
Okay, that's cool. All right, I'm trying to think of the very last question I have for you. Like I forgot it that quick. Give me a minute. Get together now. Reap a diamond. Right. Harlem Hospital giving beds out. Harlem Hospital giving beds out. And again, Loaded Luck, battle rap fans, when you try to remember something, But I'm trying to remember. I have one last question. It's going kill me if I don't get it out. Oh yeah, I got it now. For people that say both sides are the same,
Hmm.
Do you think actually getting money in their pocket with the child tax credit specifically, um, and the rescue checks combined will change some of these people minds?
Yeah, I think it can. I think it can, as long as the Democrats sell it, right? They got to just sell it. They got to just be pounding that message. And if they're doing that, I think they will be able to change some people. Because if you look at the electorate, it is polarized on national issues. But if you can get that little slice, I think they can do that. I think they can get that little slice that will help them out. But of course, that assumes there's no major scandals. There's no, other disasters that are blamed on the executive branch and whatnot. So we'll see.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Once again, great show. And again, I ask you who be breaking down issues like us, poly with us. I say this is an informative show. If I do say so myself, and I do say so myself, don't forget to subscribe, share the video, tell people about us. Definitely try and grow the channel. Peace.
Peace out.